Hello and welcome to The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano, here every week to break down all the things that are happening in pop culture and interviewing the people that make it pop. And first of all, Happy New Year. It is 2024, and we are kicking it off with a pop culture bang. Okay, so originally we were planning to do our top moments of 2023, pop culture moments. But I had to put that on pause because that is coming next week. The episode is in the arsenal, ready for your ears. But I'm sorry, we had a pop culture, instantly iconic moment happen already, just 3 days into the new year. And I had to take to the mic to talk about it. And of course, I'm talking about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City finale. Wow, oh wow, oh wow. Guys, I'm kind of like still shaking from it. I have watched it. I'm not even kidding you. I have watched it 3 times already. Okay. Like I said, we are 4 days into the new year, but you wouldn't believe I had to keep watching it. It was so wild, so entertaining. And there was just so many moments. And so, of course, I had to take to the mic. I had to bring it to you. All the thoughts, all the recap of this, what is going to go down in history as one of the best Housewives moments of all times, one of the best Housewives episodes. And I mean, this is truly a pop culture shift because so much just happened, and we'll get into all of that and my thoughts about it. But that is really what we're here to do today. And like I said, we're going to still recap 2023. It's just going to be next week, in our episode next week, because I had originally planned to sort of cover the end of Salt Lake City next week, with the launch of the reunion. But yeah, sorry, this is the way the cards have fell. This is history in the making. And so here we are together. But I do hope that you guys all had a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year to you all. I'm here and very excited to be spending our second year. We started this podcast at the beginning of 2023. And so this is kicking off our second year on the pod. And so thanks for listening. But let's just get right into it, okay? So I want to kind of walk us through that finale episode so that we understand kind of where we are. And then I've got thoughts about where we potentially go from here. So, of course, the episode opens with this teaser of Heather standing on the beach. Now, we know from the previous sort of like or I guess it was the first premiere episode of the season, we got her getting the phone call. So we got this teaser that something was going to happen. Now, this episode opens with another teaser of her talking to someone or, a group of people on the beach, saying that she has just learned all of this like devastating news. And so we know what is yet to come. But of course, then we back up 8 hours, which even in that moment, it was like, okay, I don't even know if I am about to care about what we have over these 8 hours, because I just need to know and get right into this. But we do have to remember that the previous episode ended with this explosive fight between Whitney and Heather, breaking the fourth wall, telling the producer, get her away from me. She's drunk and crazy. So a lot had happened. So we're at the next morning, the ladies are getting up. We have to pick up kind of where these ladies left off. And what we learn is that when the ladies got home, Whitney tried to go down to the beach to talk to Heather, off camera, and she did not want to do that. And so she didn't. Monica and Whitney are in bed together and just sort of recapping kind of what had happened. And by the way, I don't know why Whitney has these like those, super metallic, reflective glasses on. Like, what is it with these Salt Lake women that they all have to wear these like crazy glasses? But of course, she's got a pair of those on. And then Monica reveals that Lisa called Whitney dramatic when she told her that she was down at the beach, mourning the loss of her friend. And that, of course, doesn't sit right with Whitney. So she was upset about that. And then finally Whitney and Heather talk. Whitney goes to Heather's rooms, like, can we talk? She's like, of course. And we learned that, like, really, what is she mad about? She's mad that what Heather wrote about her in the book. And Heather's like, but I read you everything that you were mentioned in the book. I read it to you before it went to print. And Whitney, like, said, well, I told you to take out one thing. And Heather's like, I did. And then she's like, but I didn't ever get to read it again after the revision. And Heather's like, but we literally took out a word. So, like, you asked for that. We took out the word and it went to print. You read the whole thing. Then Heather reads us the excerpt in the book that apparently she's upset about. And I love that, Heather says something of like, I took these boudoir photos of her, so she was from belly button to backside. And the way Whitney reveals it or remembers it is, I just felt exploited because you were saying that I was like down on all fours, ready to be exposed from belly button to butthole. And Heather's like, okay, I promise you I didn't write the word butthole. I wouldn't put that in print. So I don't actually know if they ended up hugging and saying cousins forever, but they were both sort of like throwing insults at each other still. And it was like the tension was still there, but I guess they were just choosing to move on. But thank God, because, like, I'm sorry, Whitney just doesn't have a lot of storyline. And I'm kind of getting tired of her being upset about really nothing. Like, she's always sort of looking to make something really small into something really big. I do think that this season she had a bit more authenticity with the Lisa fighting, like when she was upset with Lisa over, not being empathetic about losing her friend and things like that. But I really didn't like this whenever she fights with Heather, I'm just like, I don't really know if you've got enough here. So anyways, they have that. Then we go for mopeds and shopping. Again, it's like, this just feels like filler scenes when we know what's coming. But there was some good stuff. We got in the mopeds, we got a lot of comedy. We learned Meredith doesn't know when she drove a car last. The producers had to ask her, and she was like, oh, I have no idea. So her trying to like navigate on a moped is comedy. And then let's see, Monica almost hit the van with her moped, and the guy was like, you're gonna have to learn how to ride this before you go out on the main street. And she's like, cause I'll die. And he's like, no, yeah, you're making a joke of it, but yeah, you will die. And so and then I loved Whitney was sitting on her moped while driving with her legs crossed. Hysterical. And then we get the callback to the bitch goats. Earlier in the season, there was, somebody called the goats a bitch, and the producers put some subtitles on of the goats talking. Did they call us a bitch? And the other one's like, yes. And so we get another callback to that as Heather sees another goat. And then we go shopping, and the girls split up, but the real sort of like meaty thing that happened was Heather and Angie both forgot their credit cards. Angie's like, I have a picture of mine. I'm going to see if they can take that. I'm like, okay, why aren't these women traveling with their money? Like, why don't they know to put a credit card if they're going shopping? Like, that just feels a bit of a miss. And so ultimately Monica's like, well, guys, I have money. I can pay for it. Which then she goes up and it's like $750. And she looks like you could see the fear in her face. And as she hands the lady her card, that she's probably in her head like, okay, there is $7.49 and 89 cents on that card left. So I'm hoping that goes through. Well, it doesn't. And so then she's like, oh, I think I have to like turn on that I'm at international traveling. So she's like doing something. And then she's like, okay, try it again. But this time she hands the lady a different card because clearly the other one was declined. And that went through. And so she was like, oh, you girls thought I didn't have the money or that my card was declined. And it was like, well, it was. But so that was pretty like interesting. But then all the ladies head home. We get 1 hour later is when Heather gets the call that we've already seen. And we see nothing new in this scene. It's what was in the premiere. You know, producers are outside the door. She gets this call. She's like, oh my God, she's still mic'd. And so the producers like burst in the room and she instantly is like, no, guys, get out, get out. You can't be in here. That's all we got. Then we get 4 hours later. Okay. And guys, I'm just going to say, I need to know what happened in those 4 hours. Like a lot can go down in 4 hours when Heather gets this call. And I'm just like, I need a special. Like when back in the day when Teresa flipped the table on the very first episode or the very first season of Jersey, I remember that they did a special episode where they like extended all the scenes, like leading up to the dinner, and then they extended all of the fighting at the table. Gonna need that. So producers, I'm gonna need that. That edit on this. And I want to know what happened in these 4 hours. So then it's like, it shows that, 4 hours later, the ladies are sitting down for dinner and Heather has prepared this game, which, when a housewife prepares a game, nothing is going to go good. That is going to reveal secrets called the Bermuda Triangle. And it's going to uncover the unsolved mysteries. So Heather's doing this big setup and, it starts and Whitney goes first and she confronts Lisa about being dramatic and on the boat with Meredith and saying like, so why are you calling me dramatic? And then the whole thing becomes overly dramatic because everyone just keeps saying the word dramatic. I think the counter ended up getting to like 12 or something. I was like noticing in one of my rewatches, Lisa says it, I think 5 times in one sentence. She had learned how to say dramatic in 5 different times in one sentence. I mean, that's a lot. And so they have like a bit of a fight and then Lisa's like, okay, I'm over it. Let's move on. So then it goes to Meredith. Meredith confronts Heather and says, I don't feel like you were very supportive of me on this trip. Everyone kind of came for me about these DMs that I got and about Angie and, everyone just sort of ignored what I had said, which was like, was speaking my truth of like, I got these, that's all I know. And everyone was kind of attacking. And so she's asking, why didn't you support me? And Heather's like, well, because we all believed Monica. But then it goes to Heather. And then Heather's like, well, I have Meredith, but I don't have any secrets that I need to reveal about Meredith. What I want to know is actually about Monica. And she kind of like does this whole setup. And so, you know what, as I'm saying this, guys, I'm realizing what happened in those 4 hours. Heather was practicing all these monologues because Homegirl had a script. There was so many monologues that she went on with so much dialogue in them. I was like ready to give her an Emmy. So now I'm realizing that in those 4 hours, she was writing these monologues and practicing them in the mirror so that she could deliver them because boy, did she have it just like down. And so she was like, setting it all up of like, I want to know who the real Monica is, because what we have now learned is that the real Monica is, and then it cuts to the reveal. So it cuts to the scene on the beach that we open the episode with, where Heather's waiting, Whitney comes down, then Lisa comes down, then Meredith comes down, and everyone's like, what is going on? This feels like something's not right. Heather's about to cry. They're all kind of starting to cry. So in this cutaway, which by the way, the like filter that they put on it, it was like very Little Big Lies or Big Little Lies, Little Big Lies, Big Little Lies. I mean, it was very iconic television happening, and it was such an emotional moment. Like it was great television. I was tuned in 3 times. And so, yeah, so we're getting this like crazy moment, and Heather starts to do one of her monologues, and she's kind of going on and on. And Lisa's like, okay, just say what is going on. And she's like, Monica is not who you think she is. She's like, Monica that you know, we know her as dun dun dun, reality Von Tease. So then everyone's freaking out, and we now learn that Reality Von Tease is an Instagram account and a Twitter account that essentially was set up to troll Jen Shah. And we all kind of know, like, if you're in the Housewives universe, you kind of do know this account because there was so much that came out. There was videos of Jen Shah yelling at her employees. There was, there was audio of Jen Shah. There was a lot of really damning evidence against Jen Shah that came out on this account. And so everyone had always assumed it was somebody inside the Jen Shah camp. And apparently the account, as it was going after Jen, it just sort of started to also go after some of the other ladies as well and talk about everybody on the cast of the Housewives of Salt Lake City. And quite frankly, it's also kind of done that with some of the other cities as well. I did some sleuthing on it. So Heather kind of like walks us through how she found out about all of this, which it starts with her going to Beauty Lab, her business, to get a gift card for Monica. She finds out while she's there that she has 3 different Monicas in her system with the same birthday, one of which has never paid its bills. So she finds out that's Monica Fowler, who we know as Monica Garcia. And that like raised some flags for her. Now, interesting that Heather has never at any point brought any of this up to Monica and like just continued to move things forward. But she was obviously, going through all of this. So then she finds out that is going on. Then she starts telling like, well, there was some things that didn't make sense. There was the DM story with Meredith, and Monica mentioned to me, like, I didn't think any of you girls were, capable of doing something like that. Like, I'm capable of doing it. So she's like, so I reached out to Tanisha, who's a mutual friend of Monica's and does Heather's hair. And she said that Tanisha had a crisis of conscience, and that is what led her to reveal to her that she was behind Reality Von Tease. And Heather wanted to make sure of it. So she called somebody. Now they bleeped out the name, but I am pretty certain that the name was Facebook. She reached out to somebody at Facebook, and they called her, and that is who was on the phone that the producers got kicked out of the room. Was that her contact from Facebook or Instagram called and confirmed that, yes, this account is attached to Monica Garcia. And so, Heather's freaking out. She now has all of this evidence. She's letting the ladies know. The ladies are furious. And, Heather's like, I'm going to confront her tonight. I need your backup. Meanwhile, everyone's just like, they can't believe it. They're all in shock. And, Meredith, most importantly, she's crying and saying like, why do people keep having to hurt us? And all the while her extension is showing. The breeze of the Bermuda air has just pushed her hair over, and all you can see is her extension. It's comedy while also being the most emotional and like iconic thing that I've ever seen. So that is kind of the reveal scenes. So then we get back to the table where, Heather is again like, I want to know who you really are, and, who's the real Monica. And I'm going to say from now, this is either in editing, or if this was real-time reaction, Monica looked guilty immediately. As soon as Heather was like, I want to know who the real you is, Monica knew something was about to come out. And because she was looking guilty right away. And the one thing I don't know is because Angie was not on the beach. Heather did not invite Angie down to the beach. What did Angie know going into the dinner that this was going to happen? I need to know that because she's sitting there. She sort of seems like she knows that what Heather's about to reveal. She never seemed super surprised by Heather's reveal, but she wasn't there for the reveal. So I'm confused. I'm unsure if Angie's learning this at the same time and is just so like caught off guard and appalled that she's sort of sitting with her mouth hanging on the table. If you go back and watch, you'll see what I'm talking about. She's just sort of like sitting there, like, I don't know if it's shock or if it's like she's just sort of like sitting there scared because she knows what's coming. So anyways, she says, we know that you are the cyber bully reality Von Teese. So Monica, everyone's kind of looking at Monica to, I guess maybe some of the ladies were hoping that she was going to immediately say like, that's not true, which she does. She says, that's not true entirely. And then everyone loses their mind. What does entirely mean? And she's like, I was not the only person behind that account. So then chaos truly breaks out. Everyone starts screaming, this is disgusting. Whitney, moves her seat. She's like, I can't be next to her. Meanwhile, all you see in the background is like the camera crews and the producers and everybody. And at one point, there's like a scene, I think it's when Angie's yelling later, but there's a scene where like literally you just see producers like running in the house and like open and like, oh, we got to get outside. Like this is exploding. It's insane. I mean, the fact that this is all happening, and I mean, they must have all just been losing it because they knew what they were about to have was one of the most epic moments of television history. So, what we, start to hear from, literally it was all chaos. So there were so many things being said and like thrown out that like, I want to deep dive on all of them because we learned that there's security footage in Meredith's store from a few seasons ago. Meredith said that somebody in Jen Shah's camp came into her store and stole a clutch. Now, that was a huge storyline back in the day. Well, apparently in that security footage, which I am shocked that producers did not know this, Monica is in the security footage. Now she is saying, I wasn't the one that stole anything. And Meredith says, I didn't accuse you of stealing anything, but you told me that you had never been in my store. And so, of course, then producers cut to 2 months ago where Meredith invites Monica to her store and she comes in and is like, oh, wow, this is beautiful. I've never been here before. And so that is pretty crazy. And, Monica's like, it was Tanisha's account. There was several other people involved in the account. Like, it wasn't just me. I posted some things about Jen to take down Jen, and that was it. And, Lisa's like, oh, you're disgusting or something. And it really sets Monica off because they already, have such hatred towards each other. And she's like, oh, you be quiet, you bitch, or something to Lisa. And then Lisa's like, I don't want to hear your fucking, or what did she, I actually wrote it down. I don't want to fucking hear your fucking mouth. And I love that Lisa is reprimanding her for cursing because that's what set Lisa off was the cursing. And what she's saying is like, I don't want to hear your disgusting mouth. But she also fit in 2 F-bombs in that sentence. So again, iconic. And then we get some cutaways of Monica too. And one of her confessionals, she's saying, our mission was to take down Jen Shah. The other women were just collateral damage. I kind of get what she's saying in this because now I think we're going to learn a lot more at the reunion, but it seems as though this truly was hey, we are disgruntled employees of Jen Shah who abuses us and treats us bad, and she's getting notoriety, and she's becoming one of the most quote iconic characters on TV of all time. People were saying, oh, she's like a Teresa, she's got all this personality, she's amazing, when she first came out on Housewives, until obviously her epic fall. But the epic fall came from this stuff that they all revealed. I think that Jen just played with the wrong people and they went after her. Now, all right, we'll get into the whole how did Monica end up a housewife thing in a minute. But, I do think that, like, because they were showing some of the screenshots and stuff, and even though there was stuff said about the other women, it always sort of seemed to also be trying to point something at Jen. Like, oh, Jen said this thing about this person. And that's like, so even though, yes, it's putting that rumor out about, whatever cast member, it was still sort of painting Jen as the villain. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. But then she's like, Angie starts yelling, and Monica says something about, like, you don't want me to talk about your involvement in this account. And then, like, Angie's like, oh, because I, like, laughed at some of your posts. And then we get, like, all the screenshots where, like, Angie has, like, interacted with this account. And I don't know, was that it? Because the way that Monica said it, I thought we were about to, like, reveal that Angie was also one of the people running this account, which was going to I was going to fall to the floor if that was what was about to be revealed. But then that's what it sounded like she was saying. But then Angie really went off, and then she tried to, pick up the huge tablescape of flowers and, like, throw it. And, Monica's like, oh yeah, throw that at me. And I think she realized, like, oh no, Monica will probably sue me. So I'm going to put this back down. And Lisa, by the way, because I hope that you guys all go rewatch it after this. Lisa, you have to watch Lisa's face when Angie is yelling and she, like, goes to throw the flowers. Lisa has never loved anything more. Her face is lit up. She is like, ooh, girl. I mean, it was like Sheree when, who was it? Was it Portia that walked in? But that meme of Sheree when she's like, oh yeah. Like, she's so happy. This is Lisa in that moment. And man, Monica she is so street. She said, I wrote down another thing, because Lisa just, like, kind of attacks and she just starts screaming, but it's not really, like, anything well thought out. I did write this down. Monica responds to her at one point and she says, no, fuck you, you dumb old fucking piece of shit, leather rubbery bitch, Donald Trump fan, shut the fuck up. Yeah, she shut her down. I'm sorry. Leathery, rubbery Donald Trump fan. I could just take that. But I mean, it's crazy. It's iconic. And then, ultimately, Lisa's like, we don't even want you here. Like, why are you sitting here? Like, you need to leave. And then Monica's like, no, you leave if you don't want to be around me. Like, you go. And then Heather stands up and gives her final monologue and is like, what you don't understand is that we are all friends. And we have been here before with Jen Shah. And I knew that something was off about you because it felt familiar. And she goes into this whole thing about how, Jen, every day they woke up worried about what rumor Jen had started and would cause, and the pain that she was causing, and the things that they would have to defend her for by being her friend. And then Heather reveals that Jen, she said, I went on book tour and I had to take so much shit and defend her, even though she gave me a black eye. We finally find out that Jen gave Heather the black eye. Then we get, the clip back and we watch it all go down. And I mean, I hope we never talk about the black eye again outside of the reunion, because I do want a little bit more of the story. I want to know what actually led to the black eye. But I mean, now that Heather said it, she's got to say it. But yeah, I mean, all the women were shocked. I think Meredith was like, what? I mean, the fact that Heather had been keeping that in and defending Jen for so long, she finally was able to let it out, and everyone, it was truly the mic drop, because even Monica in that moment didn't know what to say. She's like, well, I'm glad you were honest for once. And then Heather, continued her monologue and said, pack your bags and go. And Monica walked off. And then the way that these women were huddled around each other, I mean, it was like the Last Supper. I want it like painted on a mural in my wall. It was iconic. The way that they were all trying to comfort each other, and, and then, I'm sorry, how does it end there? How does it end there? I just don't understand. It's like I feel like this needed to be the premiere episode, because we have so much that I need to unpack now. And it's like insane that this was the end. All of a sudden we start getting the title cards at the end. It's like, oh, Heather like went home and started giving her children advice. And it was like, okay, we need to like unpack what's going on. There's a lot. Like, how are cameras stopping here? And then, we get to Monica's, and she says, even Gossip Girl couldn't stay Gossip Girl forever. So she knew it was coming out. She was like, I knew that eventually this would be revealed. But I have a theory about how it's the end, because I do think that like producers, they plan sort of the season ahead of time. I don't know if Bermuda was intended to be the last, like the season finale, but I have a feeling that after this reveal, it was like, well, we're clearly not going to get all these women in the same room again with Monica anytime soon to have like a finale party back in Salt Lake. Like, I think there was so much damage done that producers may have just said, okay, I think this is our finale. I think that like this is epic television and this is our finale. And then people are just going to be chomping at the bit for the reunions, which I am. And so I think that's what we ended up with here. But it's just insane. And it was such an incredible piece of history and moment on television. And so I can't believe that this is how we have kicked off 2024, is with this like incredible thing. Now, the reason that this is so iconic from a pop culture perspective is this is somebody who got her way on this show. Okay. She went after Jen Shah, became part of Jen Shah's Shaw Squad, or, she was Shaw Amazing, was Shaw, on the Shaw Squad, and worked for her. Jen Shah was verbally, and some people claim physically, abusive to her staff. And it sounds like a group of these employees that had been abused by Jen Shah decided to take her down with this account. In the meantime, somehow Monica was as she's, attacking these women online under a false name, and not just her going at it, she also becomes a housewife. And that in itself is like, it's so meta, but it's like, that is what is so crazy. That is something that like, there's a part of me that's like, on one hand, Monica was a perfect casting choice, because she moved this season along. She gave us so much in this season that I don't know that we will ever have a housewife like her again. Like, she was so good. And there's, everyone's questioning, does she come back next year? Will she? Can she? And like, in most cases, I would say absolutely. Like, even if she had done something horrible, like, she didn't pay her beauty lab bills or whatever, it's like, yeah, we can like get past that. I don't know if you bring back somebody who was so like one of our, housewives trolls. It's like if I all of a sudden was a housewife. I'm here on a podcast talking about them, week over week, talking about them on, social media, being a part of the Bravo universe in a very different way, and then suddenly was a housewife and had to pretend that I didn't have the podcast and that I didn't talk about these women behind their backs. And it's really, really wild. It's like, it's something that I still can't quite get my head around. But I mean, it was an incredible season, and it was an incredible finale. And so if we don't, and as we know, Monica is sitting first seat next to Andy at the reunion because, of course, how could she not? And there's a lot we got to unpack at that reunion. I don't know where we go from here with Monica. I know Heather has said, in the media that she won't film with her again, which I have called out and said, like, I hate when housewives do that because that's so silly. How can you be a part of a cast if you're not going to film with one of the other cast members? But now it all is a little bit like, yeah, there's more to it though. Like, she didn't just do something horrible to Heather. It's like she really went from this like troll and bully and, fan of the show and fought her way through it all and got herself a spot as a full-time housewife and sitting right next to Andy. And I don't know, maybe that's celebrated by like, let's bring it back. But like, also some of the stuff that she has done feels a bit criminal. So it's like, well, now are we just bringing more criminals on the cast? So I don't know. I'm really at a loss, guys. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. Of course, follow me on socials at CM Vetrano. Let me know what you think. But we are in for a ride with this 3-part reunion that's coming up. I can't wait to learn more. And this is our first episode of 2024. It's coming to an end. And I might have to go watch the show again, or at least the dinner scene. I don't know. There's just still more to unpack. But yeah, follow me. Don't forget to come back. We will be covering the reunion as well here at The Gist. So please come back. And like I said, we will do our biggest moments of 2023 episode. We just had to bring you this. This is breaking. This is huge news. And so had to bring it to you as soon as I could. And with that, I leave you. Again, I wish you a happy new year and excited for the things to come. And until next week, bye.